What's going on, guys? So in today's video, we are going to be discussing this little lens right here. This here is the Canon 35mm f2.0 lens. Now, one of the reasons that I want to talk about this lens is because I did a review on it a couple of years ago, but since then my style of at least video production has changed, and so have my thoughts about this lens. I'm not going to get super deep into technical aspects or specs on this lens. I'm just going to kind of present my user experience, how I like using this lens, why I actually love using this lens, and why I think it's a great addition to any kit that you might have as an overall good, just general use prime lens. So first of all, let's jump into some of the pros that I love about this lens. Now, super lightweight, that could be a pro and it could be a con. Now, I like that it's lightweight because typically when I shoot photography with this little lens right here, I'm using my Canon 5D Classic, which is a heavier body camera. So having a nice little lightweight lens on that camera makes it easier, you know, to just go around and use and hold for long periods of time. Another thing I like about this lens is that it has nice sharp focus, and the autofocus feature on it is really fast. Now, this is like a focus by wire lens. So, you know, it's nice, it's fast, it's quick. And that's another reason that I really love this lens so much. Another thing that I love about this lens is that it provides a lot of flexibility, especially for a prime lens. I like that 35mm focal length because it's still pretty wide, but it's not super wide that you can't get really nice shallow depth of field, especially if you're doing something like portraits. But because it has so much flexibility, you can use it from everything from portraits to street photography and even landscapes. The lens itself has a good amount of contrast and you get really nice, beautiful, clean images. You're not going to get anything, I wouldn't say super unique, but you can actually make your images super unique or have a more of a unique feel in your post-processing. And the last reason would be that it does go down to 2.0 or open up to 2.0. Now, I know for some people they want it to be at 1.8 or even 1.4, but for myself, I find that 2.0 is really good as far as being able to open up, get shallow depth of field. A lot of times I don't even shoot that stop down or, you know, that wide open because depending on what I'm doing, I need a little bit of flexibility within my focal range. So I usually like to shoot around 3.5 to 4.5, sometimes a little bit higher depending on the project. Now let's talk about some of the cons. Now, once again, these cons are going to be a little bit subjective. So the first con would be is that it is a focus or, you know, focus by wire type of lens, which means basically you control it through the camera on the autofocus settings. Now you do have the option to make it manual focus, which I often use nowadays, especially because of the type of video cameras that I'm using. And the fact that it is focused by wire, it does actually make the focus throw, like, I don't want to say irrelevant. It just doesn't make it as, you know, as important. So sometimes when you're dialing in that focus automatically, or I'm sorry, manually, you know, you kind of got to be very gentle because it's basically like infinite, right? You could just keep spinning and spinning and spinning this thing around. And so when you're using you know, a lens like this where it is focused by wire as opposed to a manual focus lens, right? You're going to notice that in that focal throw, and as far as like dialing in your focus, is going to be a little bit different when it's on a manual lens. I feel like they kind of dial in a little bit better, or you kind of got a little bit more wiggle room when you're throwing the focus. But here you got to be very gentle, very tack sharp, very precise. Now the next con, once again, is subjective, but this lens is actually really loud when it's autofocusing, okay? When it's loud or when it's autofocusing, it could get like loud, zip, 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 you hear that. Now that's not really a problem if you're doing photography, right? But if you are doing video work, then you wanna be mindful of that, right? Especially where your audio is placed. So if you're using on-camera audio and you have it in autofocus, this could be, you know, it could definitely mess up your shot, right? It's not an STM lens, so you're not gonna have like that silent motor when it's focusing. This particular model here is a little bit older, And so you don't have that option. So you want to keep that in mind. If you're using this for video production, you have to be careful where your audio is placed, especially if it's on camera. So for me, that's all the cons that I can really list about this lens. I really love it. And so I'm going to talk briefly about the photography side and the video side. So as I mentioned earlier in this video, when it comes to the photography side of using this lens, I really love it. It's actually my go-to lens. It's one of those lenses that I actually really never take off from my camera because it is so flexible. I feel like that 35mm focal length works really well, whether you're on a full frame sensor or if you're on a crop sensor. Now, when it comes to the video side of things, I actually just started using this lens way more than I have in the past. I've been doing video production for a really long time, and for a long time, I wasn't actually using this lens, mainly because of two reasons. One is because I had my audio on camera, and if I was using, autofocus, or I'm moving it on a gimbal, and I had my audio on camera, that would mess up my audio in the shot. So a lot of times I didn't use it. I opted to use lenses that were STM style lenses, so that way I can autofocus, having that on a gimbal and not messing up the audio in my shot. So in conclusion, if you were looking to pick up this lens, I would definitely check it out. I think at the time of this recording, I'm not sure, I think I picked this lens up for about, maybe 300 bucks. So it's probably around that range. You can probably find it used for a good price, or you can probably find it brand new at a fairly decent price. But this is one of those lenses that I've had for years, right? And I'm never going to get rid of this lens. I just love this lens. I love the focal length. I love the images. I love the pictures that I get out of it. It's just a really good overall prime lens to have and to be able to leave on your camera, whether you're doing video or whether you're doing photo, because that 35mm focal length, in my opinion, offers a lot of flexibility. So even if you're in a tight space, you can still get good shots, right? It's not like it's too zoomed in and you kind of leave yourself in a bit of a bind, right? If that's the only lens that you're flying on your camera that day. And it just has so much flexibility. So as a prime lens, whether it's this lens or another lens around that 35mm focal length, I think it's a great addition to have in your kit. Excuse me, because like I said, I've had this lens for years. I'm probably going to have it for years to come. So hopefully that was useful and helpful. And if so, give me a like and drop me a comment and let me know some of the work that you guys are creating right now. And until the next time, keep on doing what you're doing and keep on shooting. Peace.